In the land of the two lands, where the sun god Ra bestowed life upon the black soil, there was a power greater than the Pharaoh. It was not the army, it was not the treasury, it was the voice of God, and that voice had a name, Amun, and his will had a vessel. Not the king in his palace of gold, but the god's wife in her temple of stone. We are going behind the sacred walls, where the air is thick with the smoke of Kushite incense and the murmured prayers of thousands. This is not a story of faith. It is a story of the blood that fed the roots of faith. She is the divine adoratress, the hand of God, chosen from the purest royal blood to be the bride of the god Amun. She is the most powerful woman in Egypt. She commands lands, armies, and the souls of men. She is also a sister, a daughter, a pawn, and the man who seeks to control her, the Pharaoh, is her own brother. This is the story of a pact written not on papyrus, but in shared blood, a pact that would drown a dynasty in the waters of the Nile. This is the story of the god's wife who became a weapon, the 25th dynasty. Egypt is reborn. The Kushite pharaohs from Nubia have seized the throne, restoring the old gods, the old glory. But to rule Egypt, you must control Amun, and to control Amun, you must control his wife. So the Pharaoh Pianki places his daughter, Amenirtis II, as the god's wife of Amun. She is his spy in the god's house, his hand on the divine treasury. The system is perfect, a seamless union of palace and temple, but power shared is power threatened. The god's wife was no secluded priestess. She was a CEO of a divine corporation. Her temple owned more land than some pharaohs, commanded its own militia, and its endorsement could sanctify a reign or condemn it to the desert sands. She was meant to be the pharaoh's puppet. But what happens when the puppet holds the strings to the kingdom's soul? The answer would come from within her own family. Upon Amenirtis's death, the mantle falls to Shepenupet II, daughter of the next Pharaoh Taharqa. Taharqa is a warrior king, a builder of pyramids. He believes his sister will be his loyal instrument, as Amenirtis was for his father. He is wrong, because while Taharqa fights foreign wars, a new power is rising in the Delta, the Assyrians, a brutal, relentless empire, hungry for Egypt's wealth. They send their agents, their promises, their threats, and their messages find a receptive ear not in the palace but in the temple, with the god's wife herself. Why would Shepenupet II, a princess of the blood, betray her own brother? The throne? The answer is the oldest poison, survival. She saw the Assyrian war machine. She saw Taharqa's armies pushed back, again and again. The temple archives held prophecies, records of past invasions. She knew empires are fleeting, but the cult of Amun is eternal. Her loyalty was not to her brother, the man. It was to her god, her temple, her own power. To save the institution, she was willing to sacrifice the king. The betrayal was not a dramatic shout. It was a whisper, a redirected grain shipment meant for the army, a lost decree that delayed troop movements, a carefully worded oracle from Amun that sowed doubt about the pharaoh's divine favor. She became a secret channel to the Assyrian king Esarhaddon, a god's wife, negotiating the surrender of her own blood. In 671 BC, the hammer fell. Esarhaddon's armies, fueled by insider knowledge, smashed through Taharqa's defenses. Memphis, the ancient capital, fell. The pharaoh was forced to flee south, a king without a kingdom, and who remained in Thebes, untouched, her temple and wealth intact. The god's wife, Shepenupet II. She had saved her god. She had saved her office. She had traded her brother's crown for her own security. The pact of blood was broken on the altar of realpolitik, but the curse of betrayal is a seed that, once planted, always grows. The Assyrians were not saviors. They were new masters. They recognized the power Shepenupet held. To control her, they forced her to adopt a new heir, their own puppet. a Libyan princess named Nitocris as her successor. The god's wife of Amun was now a vassal of a foreign emperor. The independence she sought to preserve was forever lost. Taharqa would die in exile, his heart broken, his legacy in ruins. The Kushite dynasty was finished. And Shepenupet? She lived out her days in the gilded cage she had helped forge. She had the power, but she had sacrificed her family, her dynasty, and a part of Egypt's soul to keep it. The legacy of the god's wife is not one of pure devotion. It is a chilling lesson in the corrupting nature of institutional power. When the survival of the system becomes the only god, then brotherhood, loyalty, and even the nation itself become acceptable losses. This story echoes beyond the sands of Egypt. It whispers from every hall of power where the institution is worshipped above the people it serves. In every boardroom, every government, every church where the greater good is used to justify the betrayal of the individual. The stones of Karnak still stand, but if you listen closely, you can still hear the ghost of a prayer that was not for a god, but for power, and the sound of a brother's throne shattering on the floor of heaven. The pharaohs are dust, but the choice between loyalty to a person and loyalty to a system is a curse that forever haunts the corridors of power. What other pacts of blood have been shattered by the thirst for power? The secret betrayal of a Roman emperor? The poisoned cup that ended a Chinese dynasty? The story of power is the story of betrayal, and history is written in the blood of brothers. Comment below and tell us what shattered dynasty you want us to uncover next.